Good morning, Adrian.
Good morning. Who's that?
It's Elise.
Hey, Elise. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Now,
Good, good.
do you want me to make you host?
No, not necessary. No, you guys are recording it and everything, so it's all good.
Okay.
Mm, mm. No, it's all good. All good. How's the Have you guys had much rain there, or?
We've actually been really lucky. We were
Yeah,
supposed to have it, but
yeah, yeah.
um, we actually haven't had a lot, which has been really nice.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Good to hear.
Do you
Yeah,
have a
because
lot
you
of rain
copped
where
it.
you are?
A little bit. Not too bad. Not too bad. But that's good to
Doesn't
hear
rain in
because you copped.
Vaucluse. Doesn't rain in Vaucluse.
Yeah.
The only thing that rains in Vaucluse is money.
And
How much,
men
Bowie? How much?
and raining men. It's raining men.
Yeah,
Hallelujah.
that's
Hallelujah.
that's Darlinghurst. That's Darlinghurst. That's Darlinghurst.
I don't discriminate.
Yeah, I know you don't.
No.
Hey, how are you?
I'm an equal opportunity coach, mate.
How are you?
And I'm always outstanding, brother. Always. What about you?
Mate, I'm good. I'm good.
That's good to hear.
I got a bit distracted this morning. I've gone for a early walk and breakfast and gym, and then I got on phone calls and I'm stranded. Look at that, Bowie. Look at that.
Oh, beautiful. Whereabouts is that?
Water goes, mate. Water goes.
Water goes. That's a great part of the world, mate. Great part of the world.
Didn't quite have time to get back.
Beautiful. It's absolutely stunning there.
Oh,
Beautiful.
so we got Mr. Duck on the line. So Mr. Duck, he's challenging me to a boxing fight. Bowie, a boxing fight.
Oh, really? Okay. Good.
That's got to be interesting.
Yeah. What's who's the favourite?
He's putting himself in its favourite. Himself in its favourite.
If we go off history, I have given you a black eye.
Yeah. I didn't ask you to talk, Ducky. You got to earn your time.
Yeah. Oh, well, good luck with that.
We've got a lot of good names coming on. I'm seeing freaking Zelly, Allison, Woodgate, Rhodes, Batesy, Heathy, Katie, Queen Dixon, Maddie King, Rosie, Smiles is all on there.
Awesome. The team I saw something that the team grew as well by a couple of officers.
Yeah, that's tomorrow, buddy. So there's the leadership team are a little bit stressy around that. There's a lot going on.
Right. Okay.
But we'll get there, mate. We'll get there.
Sounds good.
It's always good. The day before is always a bit of crunch time. But yeah, pretty exciting to get Yamba on board, and there's one more I'm looking at the moment. So let's see how we go.
That's amazing, mate. Growth.
We love it, and mate. That's what we're going to talk about today.
Growth.
No, you know who we're going to talk about? Going to talk about, mate. I know you work with Josh.
Yes.
He's a freak. So
yeah.
There's probably no one in our team that really and I'd only really expect it to do what he's doing in relation to hours and time and dedication, and that's fine. Like that's where he's going with his life. But what I would like to talk about is, from what I understand, there's some guys that have joined that have 2x and 3x their business since joining Josh.
Yes.
So what I'm more interested in talking today, if you could explain what goes into that energy, what's making, like Josh is, he's a rare cat. You got a couple rare cats in the industry, but how about those guys that, I'm going to call them normal just for today's sake, normal dudes that are now 2x or 3xing their business. What's going on in there? How's that happening, and how could we bring that culture into Lifestyle Group while remaining a balance?
Yeah, no, it's a good question and good timing as well. I know. Because I actually did 6 out of 6 auctions for him on Sunday, which is and even someone who's been doing this 35 years and called a lot of auctions, and even though I coach them. I'm not their regular auctioneer, Tim Snell is, but when he goes away, I fill in. So I've done it a couple of times. And even from my point of view, I was there as a student, like just thinking, how do these guys run it? Even though I taught them the basics, they've sort of, the refreshing part about it, Dave and team, was was that they transitioned from private treaty agents to auction. Okay, so they had no inhibitions, no bad habits. They just embraced it, and purely out of pain, because the private treaty process was multiple rescissions, multiple extensions of cooling off.
And guys, just to give a bit of preference to that, we work with Jolly Hollings a bit. So that's Jolly Hollings' patch. It's western suburbs. When the market turns, it feels it very bad. Joel's having he's still doing good numbers. Joel's having a hell of a time. It's predominantly probably a private treaty market, especially in a weaker market. It goes back to private treaty. Just to give you guys an insight that these guys have taken the balls to go to auction. And not only that, I saw your result, and that's why I'm asking the question, 6 from 6. And guys, it's not strong Sydney market. It really feels the pain when the market turns.
Absolutely. And look, even Josh, initially when we talked about auction was like, Bowie, number one, auction's not going to work in this area. And number two, I don't know anything about auctions. I've been a private treaty agent. So they were the stories he was telling himself. And it took associating pain, i.e. rescissions in multiple occasions, extensions in multiple occasions. Anyway, so the transition was made and it was embraced. But I'm just saying there was no bad habits, no inhibitions. It was just embraced. So, and I'll answer your question, Dave, but let me just give you a couple of observations from Sunday because it's fresh in my mind. Number one, I had conversations with a couple of buyers before auction, and I had a pre-vendor meeting with every vendor as well, and they were on the hour every hour. And let me tell you, all the vendors I spoke with, every single one of them said to me, Adrian, look, we've had to come down quite a bit on price, but Josh gave us the feedback, and we still want to get a result, but we have come down a lot. So we really hope that we get the result that we want. But Josh has been very good in communicating and also providing the metrics, which is what I taught him, which was showing him, how many people have engaged with the property, whether it's online, email, phone call, versus how many people are coming through. And therefore he kept republishing the price guide, and every single one of them had reductions from a very early stage. So the owners weren't upset by it. They were just said, look, we've come down, we understand why. And all of them also acknowledged the media. So they were saying, look, we understand why the recommendations we made. We still want to sell. We agreed to it because, we've been watching what's happening on the news, and we know the market's not performing as good as it was. So that's one observation. So that tells me high communication. It tells me indifference in communication, meaning good, bad, or indifferent, the communication was given. And it also tells me trusted advisor type recommendations early in terms of price reductions. And then they published all their price guides as well, which is transparency for their market. Okay. That was one thing. Yeah.
Why we're going, because I reckon this will be really powerful.
Yep.
Belief. I reckon they've got a belief that when they list them, they're going to sell them. And I reckon a lot of people, when they list an auction in this market, think they're not going to sell them. Would that be a fair thing? They know 100%. When they list these things, they're going to sell them. So they talk about that belief that they've got, in the system, and also the fact that they're going to sell.
Yes.
Well, I don't reckon we own that. And even I don't as the auctioneer. Like in this market, I'm turning up going, I don't know if this will sell or not today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to be honest with you, early on, they didn't have the belief. Josh embraced it, and then it became infectious. But the other guys, they to be honest with you, they actually had 2, 3, 4 pass in a row, and they were very disheartened. And they're like, look, a couple of them in our coaching sessions were saying, look, I don't think it's for me auction. I just don't think it's my style. And these are all the stories. But the line was drawn in the sand, and then they did each receive a couple of good results at auction, and it went from there. What they also noticed is magic happened at auctions, which I told them it would. And what I mean by magic is in a market where there's a lot of things you can't control, which is the current market, and one of those things you can't control is urgency, right? But by creating auction as a platform, what they noticed was there was a buyer who wanted to buy, a seller who wanted to sell. They removed price from the equation altogether, stopped focusing on what the owner really, really wanted and stop focusing on what the buyer really didn't want to pay. And they just went back and forth and put a couple of deals together. That gave them the confidence, okay? So it wasn't there to start with, I'll be honest with you, Dave. And in this particular market, it would be very easy to shy away from auctions and not have the belief in it. But when I talk about that magic happened on a couple of occasions, i.e. buyers turned up that they didn't think would turn up, i.e. buyers were committing when they weren't seeing that commitment in a private treaty environment, i.e. vendors were coming down and even shocking the agent on how much they were coming down. Why? Because it was in front of them on the day and they could use all their senses to actually observe market value rather than just the agent telling them this is what it's worth, this is what it's worth. Suddenly they saw what it's worth based on what buyers were prepared to pay. So it took a bit of convincing, I'll be honest with you.
And then they sharpened their sword along their way, They got better at what they needed to do.
Definitely. And they just said, we get it now. No, everything is auction. We're just, So it took a while, but they went fully embracing it. So self-belief 100% is important. Where it wasn't there to start with, but now it's just a non-negotiable. Okay. So my other observation on the day was I turned up and every single one of them had pre-registrations with auction. So these guys don't have the bad habits, which even I've got, which, is you talk to the owner and say, look, we expect, 3 or 4 registrations, but we don't know until the day because people don't register until the day. I think this has become habitual, but all of them had pre-registrations. That was another observation. And the associates that work on Josh's team, just to let you know, there's only 2 of them, and they've only been with him because one of them's transitioned to an agent, only been with him for under a year, and they've only got like that type of a year's experience as well, and they're doing all the buyer work. Okay. Now with the buyers, another 2 things I noticed. One is when we got there half an hour prior to the auction, the associates are calling the pre-registrations plus the people who they're expecting to turn up and register, calling them and saying, hey, it's it's Adrian here from Josh's team, just auctions in 25 minutes, just checking you're on your way, do you need anything or whatever. And my old habits and my old inhibitions might have thought that looked desperate or whatever.
Yeah, I know. I'm scared of that. I'm scared. My instinct is like,
I'm the same. And I'm like, how did that conversation go? And a couple of times they said, oh, look, the buyer said, look, they're not coming. A couple of them said, yeah, we're on our way. We're just looking for parking or whatever. Like, they've got no inhibitions, these guys. They're just making the calls. But it's not like, it's like just letting you know, a reminder, we're going to be here in 20 minutes. The auction's going to start. Do you need anything? Do you want me to take your driver's license details down or whatever? And then I asked the associates, and these guys are like 21 years of age, been doing it for 6 to 8 months. I said, when's the last time you spoke to that buyer? He said, Friday. And I said, okay. And the time before that? Every day. I'm like, okay. What do you talk about it? And my inhibition's going, is that desperate? Is that what? I said, well, what do you say every day? And he said, just what you taught us, Bowie, just to call them and say, hey, do you need anything? I really want to help you buy it. Is your finance, what actual chapter of your finance are you up? Is it actually formal unconditional approval or is it pre-approval? Our current price guide has been adjusted to 750. Are you at or below that guide? Just whatever you told us, Bo, but we just call them every day because we just want to stay on to it. And I'm like, okay, interesting, good. So over communicating with the buyers. My other observation with buyers is they had the luxury of doing it on a Sunday. So the whole team's there. So I'm talking the whole office. So associates, agents, every single registered party had either an associate or an agent standing next to them with a pad writing down the bids, and all of them approached the buyer and said, David, hey, I work as part of the team. You if you need me to help you, that's fine. I'm just here to support you and to call out a bid if you'd like me to. I'm going to write down each bid and just show you. And if you need me to do, and every single one of them, the agent was sort of calling out the bids for them. Right. The other thing I noticed with buyers is is the associate or the agent that actually had a relationship with the buyer, meaning they'd call them most days or whatever, they actually had a pre-arranged strategy on how to start the bidding pre-auction based on what the associate told them. So, for example, I'll give you one example out of the 6. The reserve was 650, and just for perspective, the originally was listed at 800, so 750. The guide came down to 710, then high 6s, then 650 during the course of the campaign. There was motivation there, fair enough. They wanted to sell. So the associate backed himself because he knew that one of the particular buyers was a very, very strong buyer. And he made a recommendation to this buyer that you should opening the bidding at 715. And the buyer said, okay, I'll do that. But he built rapport. So called for an opening bid, 715. Didn't stop there. Then someone else came in over the top at 725. And then these people jumped in, I think, at 730 or whatever. Josh always tells me, don't announce it on the market when it hits reserve, just let me do that. So what Josh goes in is, the reserve is 650, by the way, goes into the owner and says, look, we've got a bid there, but I think I can get a little bit more out of them, leave it with me. Goes back out, gets another 5 or 10,000, sold for $740,000, right? And I go back, when the property sold, the owner's like, how'd you do that? You're a magician. I'm going to tell all my friends about, you know what I mean? So wasn't in a rush to announce it on the market, backed himself, knew there was a strong buyer there, and got them to basically, increase their bid on the floor, which was quite interesting. Okay.
So getting back to the energy parts of this 2x, 3x. So what I've got out of this is these guys just have raw passion, raw passion.
They're sticking to a process as well, though, that they don't deviate. Again, they weren't inhibited with any bad habits to do with auction. The key fundamental coaching for them from me was, number one, have a set to sell meeting before the property goes live to let them know what the minimum benchmarking metrics should look like. And if they don't hit those metrics, meaning how many groups through, how many hits, how many contracts, how many offers, then you'll be talking to them Saturday afternoon, if not Monday at the latest, to be making a recommendation on what you can control, which is price, presentation, and marketing. So all of them do that. Then if it hasn't met that, they make the recommendation after the very first inspection. That I taught them not to self-rationalize. Self-rationalizing is when you say, look, it's a bit early, you're almost apologizing to the owner. Look, we only had 4 groups through, but look, it's early days. It's only the first week. And maybe, it's only been online for 48 hours. I said, just don't say any of that, right? And they didn't, and they don't self-rationalize, and they just provide that indifferent approach or that indiscriminate approach and recommendation like a doctor, lawyer, and accountant would, and just said, hey, it's been the first Saturday, we're off track. We didn't hit our metrics. My recommendation is we adjust the price and get more people through next week. Okay, not ideal, but if that's what you think. So, and not all of the owners agreed in the first week, sometimes the second week, but regardless, they're getting price reductions constantly, okay? And they're constantly checking in on their motivation. Are you still motivated to sell? What's plan B look like? So they all do that. They all overqualify buyers, meaning not just calling them and say, hey, you've been through twice, you've taken a contract, you still coming to the auction? Yeah, great. Okay. You got finance sorted? Yeah, okay, great. It's digging deeper. Guide has been adjusted to this. Are you at or below? Finance, exactly where are you up to? I need to report to my owner exactly in the journey of finance where you're up to. So it's just that's basically the approach. And on the day, high energy, over communication, very animated, calling out bids. Quite interesting.
Yeah, cool. So these guys that are joining the business, that 2x and 3xing their business, what's getting created in their culture for this to happen? Obviously,
yeah. Well, I think there's a couple of things. One is, we do a monthly coaching session. I go there once a month. We do a coaching session, and we have a very open, transparent conversation. And honestly, a lot of them, to start with, were struggling. We're really struggling. They're like, Josh is killing it. I'm not killing it. It's embarrassing. I had 4 auctions pass in a row. I don't think auctions for me. So it was like, just stay on the process. Here is Josh, who is the best example of someone, but let's have a listen to the type of conversations that are happening with the vendor. So a lot of it has to do with vendor management, where what we identified is the early part, the agents were being too protective on price. They weren't urgent enough on price reductions. They left it too late. And they weren't over communicating with buyers. So as soon as they started to embrace all of that and then have that self-belief and have a couple of wins, then that really helped. But
and for some of the people, I should have even said, some guys might even not even know who Josh Chesterloin is. How many sales has he done in the calendar year?
He did 350. Yeah, in the
fund.
GCI 7.2.
7.2. So it's funny today, even this thing. I mean, what am I going to talk to Adrian about? I'm going to try and, what's the secret sauce going on there? Because I know there's a young guy that I've sort of been watching come from nowhere. And I'm like, well, what's the secret sauce? And it's like a little slap in my face. It's like, once again, there is no secret sauce. We're just getting back to fucking process. At the end of the day, they're not drinking any different water. They're obviously they're on the Josh Chesterloin, Kool-Aid train. But these boys just got process, and they're absolutely smashing process. And I'm sure their prospecting on the other side of vendor management is just as hard. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So discipline and prospect. Yeah.
Yeah. All of them have got a different prospecting method. So the newer agents are on the phones constantly. They're door knocking, letterbox dropping, social media, like all the mediums that you can think of. Josh is big on direct SMS to his clients. So he's got a database, but it's just on his phone. He doesn't use a CRM. He just uses emojis to categorize if they're hot sellers or pipeline sellers. So the hot sellers have got a money bag emoji, and the pipeline sellers have got a house emoji, right? And he'll just do SMSs to them saying, just listed, just sold. Are you looking to come on the market? What are you looking to? And, he's constantly doing, about 300 SMSs a day. And these associates have got a KPI to book in one appraisal each a day for Josh, and obviously service the buyers. Yeah. So that they got very basic KPIs just to build data, nurture data, and book in appraisals, regardless if they're listing appointments, price checks, or they don't discriminate. They're just in lounge rooms.
And in that market, Joel's been dominant for a long time. And to give you Joel's 2.5. So you can see Josh has come from nowhere to be writing 7.2. All right. So we know what they're on. They've got discipline. There's no secret sauce. Why I'm thinking about someone like Matty King. Like Matty King's out at work doing his thing. It's probably not coming as quick as he wants it, but he can start to see it. It's just stick to it and keep believing it. Do it better, sharpen your sword and do more. Batesy, you got a question for us today? What do you got?
Well, I've basically taken on that mindset as well, Bowie, in regards to just auctioning everything now.
Yes.
I am trying to adjust quickly if we're not getting traction after the first week. But, I suppose what's the conversations you've got to have with these owners, even if you've made a suggestion and then that suggestion's not working for them?
Yes. Yeah. I completely get it. So you've made a recommendation on a price adjustment, for example, and then you're still not getting traction with buyers. Yeah.
Correct.
So the conversation is look, we're making a recommendation, and it's objective based, meaning that I'm not just making this recommendation lightly. I'm making it because I can see the marketing's working. Why? Because I can see the amount of engagement we've got online, and I can see the amount of inquiries I'm receiving. However, the bottom line is we had 3 or 4 groups through and no one's interested in the property. So I'm going to make a recommendation that we adjust price, because in a market where there's a lot of things we can't control, there's only three things we can, which is how we present it, how we price it, how we market it, okay? And we know that the other two are working. So I'm going to make a recommendation on price, but I'm just here to let you know that it may not be the last one, because we're going to have the same review and audit and pulse check next week based on the amount of people that have come through. And here are some case studies. So, case studies are really important, okay? Case studies are really important to show where some properties you've adjusted the price a couple of times and this is where it's sold. A couple of properties you might have adjusted the price guide upwards. So give them hope that when you're making recommendations, they're not always going to be price reductions. In some cases, they might be price increases, but only if we hit our metrics, meaning 15 groups, 3 or 4 contracts, or whatever your metric is. So you've got to, nothing is final in terms of a recommendation. It's ongoing, and just let them know it's a very fluid process. Always check in with their motivation and just say, the motivation, is it still there? What's plan B look like? If I don't sell it, I'll rent it. Have you actually looked into that? I know it's your principal place of residence. Have you actually spoken to your accountant? Because you've got to realize that if there's little to no debt on this property, that's all going to be seen as income and will be taxable. So I just want you to make sure that that is a viable plan B, not just an idealistic one. And look, I get it, Batesy. It can be very disheartening. But I look at Queensland agents, and I'm blown away how much they embrace auction, and they've got one hand tied behind the back. Because if I'm a buyer and I go to a Queensland open house and say, "Can you give me an idea on price?" they say, "No, it's illegal. I can't." And their clearance rates on average are a lot less than ours, no matter where ours are. However, they embrace it. Why? Because they know their days on market will always be less, okay? And they look at the alternative, which is private treaty, and their so-called clearance rate for private treaty, meaning what's the percentage of properties that sell within 28 days listed by private treaty, a half again of what their auction clearance rate is. Do you know what I mean? So I take my hat off to them, because they've literally got one hand tied behind the back, and they still embrace the auction process, a lot better than even some New South Wales agents, So it's just, you just got to make sure it's continuous, it's fluid, over communicate, and these conversations, they're definitely better to be had either face to face or over Zoom or FaceTime or something like that, when you are making those recommendations.
And Bo, it's an extreme example, but a doctor that delivers news about cancer doesn't go, oh. They've got to deliver the hard news, don't they? We're just delivering information exactly like a doctor would on a terrible diagnosis like that. Like, I know it's a very extreme example, but it's about delivering it, and you're just the information passer on it. It's not your problem. It's not you didn't create this.
Correct. Oh, look, I'm happy to share with everyone that my wife this year's been through breast cancer, and she's fine now, but sitting with the specialist, it was a huge learning curve, because we went to a couple just to get a couple of opinions, but the one we went with was very indifferent, meaning, look, these are your options. Was sympathetic, was empathetic, provided some expectations, okay, but gave all the information, and wasn't a blue sky merchant, was like, these are the pros, cons, etc. And the other one we went with, didn't have a team. He was just on his own, wasn't as thorough, didn't explain the pros and cons, so it was very easy. It was almost like a listing appointment. It was very easy to choose who we went with. But then after that, with ongoing treatment, it wasn't a surprise that everything that he recommended was accurate, whether it worked out or it didn't, but we sort of went on that journey. But yeah, absolutely, still empathetic, but also indifferent, very indifferent. Yeah, so you're right.
And I'm sure they don't enjoy delivering that news, but that's their job. Like our job. And if we want to get a paycheck at the end of the day. That's what we need to what we need to deliver, isn't it?
Yeah, and the patient's motivation is they want to get a result. Okay, the seller's motivation is they want to get a result, and the only challenge is that they'll convince themselves and convince you that they will only sell if it's at a certain price. It's actually not true. It's not true, you know. So, I went to a coaching session yesterday, and they proudly said, "Oh, Bowie, have a look at the laminated sign up on our wall." And it was something apparently I said last session, which was look at what is behind price. Look at the motivation that is behind price. Something along those lines, which basically meant to them that their interpretation was, and they said to me, when they ask each other in the office now, what does the owner want for that property? Their answer now is they want a result. They want a result,
Yep.
So the takeaway, and I can't remember the exact coaching at the time, but the takeaway for them, and I think this is what I said to them verbatim, was that an owner is very interested in achieving a result, despite them thinking and convincing themselves and trying to convince you that what they really want is the actual price. So both are important, but I think we can take it too much on face value, and I think we can be the second vendor, be overprotective on price, and that's why you see some agents who will work on a property for 2-3 months, lose it, and then another agent takes it on and sells it for much less, but the owner still writes them a review because they're happy because they actually got a result. So look, I get that there's owners that are less motivated, but the ones that are motivated, and similar to those 6 auctions I did on Sunday, all of them are like, look, we did have to come down on price, but we do want to sell, but we don't want to give it away. But we took on board Josh's recommendations. He's been, he contacted us regularly, spoke to us regularly about what we needed to do to attract more buyers. So very indifferent and very direct, and still empathetic though.
Beautiful, Bowie. Have a great week. See you soon, guys.
Okay. Take care. Take care, legends. See ya. Bye bye.